others supportive of the Treasurer. Let's see, Cherelle Murphy's going to join us shortly.
Yeah, well, in fact,
my Chief Economist.
To go to that, Andrew, you asked, of course, Jim Chalmers about the different forecasts and how they can be so different, which one will be accurate, and what they're driven by.
2.75% inflation by Christmas, a Stephen Kennedy prediction or a Jim Chalmers prediction?
We don't sit in our office and write the forecasts. The Treasury team of very professional, very diligent people do that work for governments of both political persuasions. And what the Treasury forecasts recognise, in a way that wasn't possible because of the timing of the Reserve Bank forecasts, is that our Treasury forecasts for inflation factor in what we're doing with the cost of living package and what we're doing with the broader fiscal settings. And that is the main reason why they are anticipating that inflation will get back to the target band sooner.
Right, let's bring in an expert to cut to the chase on this. EY Oceania Chief Economist Cherelle Murphy joins the panel now. Thank you for your time on this budget day. I'm sure you've been busy over the past 24 hours or so. So getting right down to it, this is the question. To be fair, economists are debating amongst themselves now, aren't they? You definitely bring down this headline inflation figure because you're taking the price artificially lower. But the two questions are, does it just get spent and how much of it? That's got to be a question mark. And if it doesn't affect trimmed mean, the non-volatile figure, does it make a difference to the RBA anyway?
It is a bit of a debate, but I think it's a bit naive to think that you can just put in subsidies or rebates and pull mechanically the CPI down without it having second-round effects in the economy, particularly when, like the electricity rebate, it's not means tested. So, of course, those at the higher end of the income scale might just see this as a little bit of a bonus, and they may therefore go out and spend it elsewhere.
Yeah.
We have to also add in the state cost of living measures as well, electricity rebates there, money for parents of school kids, etc. And then that's on top of the tax cuts too. So I think we've kind of got to put that all in the mix to get the real answer. And I think maybe, yes, a little bit on the inflationary side.
Do you see them getting to 2.75 by Christmas, or is that complete BS?
I've never thought that that was the case, actually, because I think that, regardless of what's going on with this budget and these measures, I think that the underlying pressures in the economy are still there. Now, yes, we have a household sector which is in decline. Clearly, households are tightening their belts, particularly on discretionary expenditure. But there's still quite a lot of activity in the corporate sector. As we know, government is spending. They're spending more money on defence. There's a lot of businesses that are benefiting from that.
Well,
These
public
are
servants are being
too.
hired as well.
Indeed, yeah, public servants. But and then there's the kind of international factors. So, there's the increase in the cost of shipping. There's a potential, volatility in petrol prices. This can kind of mess around with the CPI as well.
I guess those are things he can blame down the track, Jim Chalmers, aren't they?
Well, yes, but, rightly so, in the sense that, these things, they need to be monitored clearly. But I think beyond this budget, there's a bigger picture, and that is that we still have an inflation problem.
The budget papers make it clear that this $9.5 billion package on cost of living is going to contribute to the $28 billion deficit next year. Does this political decision make economic sense?
Look, I think at this particular point in time, I was surprised to see them move from quite a healthy surplus with a lot of fiscal discipline in it to something that was quite opposite in the following year. Now, you have to remember that the following year is only 6 weeks away. We are not out of the inflation woods yet. And I think that it was just that little bit too soon to sort of take the brake off, if you like, or be less cautious about inflation going forward, particularly in the context of what we've seen recently, which was the high CPI number from the ABS and the Reserve Bank's warnings too.
When you look at a politician or a government, and this is not asking you for your opinion on the politics, but as an economist, sometimes the politics and the economics butt heads, don't they, in terms of the different competing demands? Because a government has to show the electorate it gets their concern, and whether it be through the rebate or whatever else, do something to try and alleviate the pressure. But the problem is the reaction economically is not exactly where they need it to be heading right now.
No, that's right. But I think it's kind of a bit more complicated than that, right? In the sense that, yes, you can give cost of living relief to those that need it. Absolutely, you can do that. And as a government, particularly, I guess, a Labor government, you probably should be doing that. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't offset it somewhere else. Now that's...
How could they do that as an example? What would be a good example of offsetting that money that's flowing out?
Well, I mean, we think about the tax expenditures across the economy. They are substantial, as we know. There's $26 odd billion in superannuation tax concessions in 1 year. That's a lot of money. There's obviously GST, which is not collected on things like financial services. Is this the best mix of policy right now? What we'd love to see is actually kind of a root and branch rethink of this, because some of this just doesn't seem to quite add up at the moment, given the economic circumstances.
If you're a householder now, give us your best advice to households. When should we be budgeting in a rate cut, and be conservative about it? Tell us what the worst case scenario is for us all.
Look, I've been saying all year that I didn't think there would be a rate cut this year. Not to say that that was a silly forecast, but my balance of expectations would it would be right into next year before we saw the Reserve Bank cut rates. I still believe that that's the case. I just think that there's too much in the inflationary environment for the Reserve Bank to be worried about, for them to take the foot off the pedal. When you think about it from their point of view, the risks of doing so are great. They cannot let go of that inflation target. They must maintain credibility. Why would they potentially mess that up?
What about the prospect of a hike?
It's not out of the question, but I think the Reserve Bank has some time to watch the next few months and how the data plays out. We have to remember inflation is actually coming down. It isn't coming down perhaps as quickly as they'd like, but it is coming down. We saw some wage numbers today. They were kind of reasonably good from an inflation point of view, 4.1%. It wasn't a big jump beyond where they've been. So, I think they do have time to just be cautious about that.